everyone, welcome to another video from the Security Hazard blog. Something a little bit different today. I am joined by the wonderful Mr. Chris Thompson. Hello, sir. How are you today?
Hello there.
Hello. For those of you who don't know, I'm Jack Knoll, and Chris and I have been working on a little project recently that you might have heard about called the Joe 90 Technical Operations Manual, which is currently available for pre-order from the Gerry Anderson store. Visit andr.sn/project 90 and you will be able to pre-order that book there. It's a beautiful piece of work, if I say so myself. And what we're going to do today is just kind of have a little casual, little laid-back chat about some of the work that we've done on this book and what it's been like to kind of put it together. And of course, Chris has been instrumental in that. So Chris, why don't you introduce yourself and let people know what you're all about?
So my name is Chris Thompson, and I write technical manuals for sci-fi properties, I guess, is a thing that I do now. No, I'm a artist, illustrator, animator, all-round creative person. Creative generalist is kind of the
creative powerhouse, I'm going to say.
Creative man. The one-man army. I've just sort of accumulated a bunch of random skills, which originally were useless, but however, we have found a way to harness this power.
To fuse them with Gerry Anderson stuff and make it into a thing. Yeah, absolutely.
And take on the challenge of modeling every single thing in every one of these shows. I am the writer for the Joe 90 Technical Operations Manual, and also joined on this particular one by yourself.
Yes.
My co-writer, Jack Knoll.
Yes, that came about in an interesting way because, again, people who don't know, this is the third manual in the sort of series. I have the other two here, which of course I'm gonna plug because they are beautiful manuals. For anyone who didn't know sort of what the books were going to look like, this is them.
They are thick boys,
very beautifully detailed, beautifully illustrated. So the first one was Space 1999, the second was UFO, and now we are in the process of working on Joe 90. Although
the only logical progression.
Well, yeah, of course, it makes sense to go in that direction. I mean, what you've done really is gone backwards, skipped over the protectors, skipped over the Secret Service, for reasons that should be obvious to most people. And here we are at Joe 90. So yeah, I obviously, this is the first of these manuals that I've been involved with. Previously, you've co-written them with our very, very dear chum, Mr. Andrew Clements. And he is not dead.
He's not dead.
He is not dead. People have wondered, like, oh, why is Jack taking over from Andrew? This is just for the this particular manual. Andrew's busy doing other projects.
We said before in the previous streams is that there's we're doing 2 books this year because I am insane. And it kind of just made sense to split the workload. And I always love working with Jack. It made an obvious choice to kind of ask him on as the co-writer for this particular one. And then me and AC are now working on the second manual for this year. Yeah, which I'm not going to say.
You're not allowed to say which one it is, but
probably if it got out, it wouldn't be the end of the world. I'm just not going to say for dramatic tension.
That's absolutely fine. Yes, so everyone can start to speculate and guess which one is coming next. But yeah, and I was very excited to join in with. The fact that it was Joe 90 was exciting for me because I do adore this show. I know Chris is very passionate about it as well. I mean, we love all the Anderson shows, but Joe 90 has a particular kind of place in our hearts.
We love them all equally.
We do. Do you find yourself having to say that a lot? Do you have to say, oh yes, all the shows are valid in exactly the same way, but really I can't stand working on this particular one. Is there
No,
anything that you're like,
I do unironically love this show.
yeah,
I think this is the really funny thing is that kind of as a bit, Jamie sort of long talked about how much he hates Joe 90, but the truth is that like a lot of us back here, I can't speak for him, but the rest of us actually have
yeah,
fond memories of the show, and
yeah, exactly, yeah.
particularly, I did the documentary for the Blu-ray,
Mhm.
um, and I mean, it was an absolute challenge trying to get anyone to talk about Joe 90, because like everyone's memory from back in the day seems to be that when Thunderbirds was cancelled, they were like, "Oh well, we might as well do UFO now."
Yeah,
Um,
it's like, no, you skipped a whole period of time
yeah,
there.
like it's like there's even popular shows back there.
Yeah,
Like, please remember them.
yeah.
But
Your big landmark achievement, I think, with that particular documentary was your interviewing Keith Alexander, who we haven't really heard too much from before. What was that kind of a whole experience like?
That was interesting because I am quite new to this. Like, usually I leave the documentary stuff to Chris Dale because that is much more his wheelhouse. But yeah, because Joe 90 again hadn't been covered that much. Like, I think in a lot of the sort of history, like documentary books, and that it really only gets one page, maybe
Yeah,
two if it's lucky, compared to like the Reams and Thunderbirds. But it meant that like people hadn't really reached out to some of the people in Joe 90 that much, and we were able to get Keith on, and we had a link set up to a recording studio in Australia.
mm.
And so I stayed up to 4 a.m. to interview Keith, and he was lovely.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a photo we took at the time. I'll see if I can dig it out and send you it of me on the screen and and Keith.
Lovely stuff.
But
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
the strangest thing about it is that we're all used to talking to these voice actors, and because you've had this experience before, but having in like a one that you've not heard in a while, like having Sam Loover in the room or Ford, popular
Yeah,
character Ford from UFO,
it
like
suddenly transports you, kind of. You're
yeah,
like, there's suddenly the line between reality and fantasy becomes a little bit blurred. At least that's my experience. I had that moment when I met Wayne Forrester for the first time, new Captain Scarlet, and I was like, it just is. It's so weird. Like the voice is just so like he does a little bit of an accent, but it's more or less his voice. And so just hearing that kind of come out of a person's face is unusual.
yeah.
Anyway,
Same with Shane Rimmer. Same with
yeah, Shane Rimmer, of course. Yes, yes, absolutely. All these people with just such memorable, interesting voices. Anyway, we're supposed to be talking about the book. But this is what happens. Like whenever Chris and I get talking and with Andrew as well, like we just spiral off into all sorts of weird avenues related to Anderson
it's
things.
2
So
a.m. and we're on Kerbal Space Program trying to build the fire crash. It's that kind of thing. Like,
yes, exactly. That has been known. Yeah, as far as the manual's concerned, it was just it's an exciting one because I think a lot of people weren't expecting it to be the next one. A lot of people, their first reaction when they turn around to it was, well, there's not a lot of technology involved in Joe 90.
or so they thought.
Exactly. In what ways are they wrong about that?
So for like something like Captain Scarlet, they had a whole deluge of sort of hero vehicles, and then every so often there'd be a guest vehicle, and it would be something that'd be quite reasonably hastily assembled. For Joe 90, they had one vehicle, two vehicles if you count Sam's car. Um, so they had all this extra money lying around, I think, to just build hero vehicles of the week.
Yeah.
So every guest vehicle in Joe 90 is actually made to a really high standard. Something I did not allow for whenever I was trying to like do the timetable for this book.
Yeah.
But things like the U-85 from Big Fish, or
Yeah.
like the A14, the tank, or the VG-104, things like that. They're all really highly detailed. They're all really impressive models that they just used once and then yeeted.
Yeah. Well, then they ended
but,
up in Doctor Who, some of them, famously,
yes,
of course. So some of them
yes,
survived.
I need to do that actually. Get the F116 out and stick bits on it just to make people cry a little.
Yeah.
Just give
But
it that one landing gear.
that extra level of detail that you found on the models, did that create an extra challenge for you when you had to kind of replicate them?
Sort of, yes. Like it's something I found with Space 1999 whenever I did that one, is that a lot of the spaceships in that are modular. So you'll have like a couple of like simple shapes and then a ton of gird work between them.
Mm-hmm.
And then whenever I got to UFO, suddenly compound curves and unusual shapes, and that the genesis of that's really in Joe 90. So yeah, it was an absolute head melt in some cases. Particularly going back to the U-85, we don't cover it too much, but it's part of the sort of
It's
dossier.
part of the mission profiles that we've done. Yeah.
You never get a front view of it, so
Yeah, of
I've
course.
had to like guess how the propulsion systems go.
Yeah.
Like there's nebulously, like, does it have windows? Does it not? The interior set has windows, and there's bits that look like windows on like the model, but it's really blurry.
Yeah, of course, because it's only ever seen underwater, isn't it? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From the side, and the puppet scale model does not match the small model, and
That's par for the course at this point. Like that always happens.
But one thing I actually did quite enjoy is I got to do a little bit of this in UFO, but on Space 1999, everything was in space. On Joe 90, it's all over the place. So we've got jets, we've got sort of rugged land vehicles, we've got hovercraft, we've got submarines, we've got a rocket, and they all look very interesting. And trying to find cool art pieces to do with all of them was quite fun. There's a lot of really stuff I'm really kind of proud of in there.
It's nice to have that little variety of what would you find was the most kind of unusual kind of setting that you found yourself working in that you maybe hadn't done before?
I have covered pretty much most bases. I think the ones that I really found challenging actually was the hovercraft, because people who know me, I'm a mechanical designer. I do vehicles and spaceships and things like that. And suddenly, like, the puppet's right there. So trying to like photo bash Joe onto the controls of the hovercraft as it's jetting along was quite tricky. But it worked out okay. Like there's a nice image of the hovercraft. Again, it's another model you don't see much of.
Right.
It is camouflage covered in bushes. But they clearly spent a lot of time on it. So it's been nice to get all that out there.
It is a beautiful craft in particular. Like I love there's a particular behind the scenes photo of the puppet set with the puppeteers operating the puppet from underneath, and it's just
and it's on a little like moving thing.
Yeah, it's a beautiful model, and only used in that one episode. It's like
never be seen again.
Never seen again. But that's why people may forget about some of the vehicles that are in Joe 90, but they are some of the most beautiful that we've certainly seen in Supermarine Nation up until that point. So it's a lovely thing. So one of the cool things about these manuals is that they are done from an in-universe perspective. The purpose of the book in universe is that it's sort of a training guide for new WIM recruits. How in terms of the design and the feel of the book have we kind of gone about manifesting that?
That actually was quite tricky, because there is an element, but like the show is very direct. Like the setup is that Project 90 is an internal project that's only supposed to involve the original 4.
Yeah.
Which is why it's the Project 90 manual and not, like, say, for instance, a WIN manual.
Yeah.
So
because no one else is supposed to know about it, basically.
But once I kind of I sort of, because at the very, very start of all this, there was that element of like, right, what do we do next? I'd originally pitched these as like little tiny mini manuals as well. So this was meant to be like a handbook until we realized that functionally, like, it's just as easy to make them big. But I think when I kind of worked out that, like, right, if we treat this less as like a standard training document and more as this is a handover document. This is if anything happens to Shane Western, this is what his replacement receives in the mail. And that rather usefully helped us kind of take it from an angle of it allowed us a little bit to address the slight ethical issues surrounding Joe 90, while also opening the door to be like, right, here is Project 90. This is potentially what you will be continuing. What you do with it now is up to you.
Yeah,
I guess it's sort of thing
this is what we've done in the past. You know, these are the types of missions that Joe has been on. This is who Joe is, who all the characters are that are involved.
This is our like list of successes. And this is what to do if things go bad. I was trying to come up with a conclusion, and like I realized that they would need some sort of exit plan based on various issues. So like at the end, it is like, what if something bad happens to Joe? What happens if the McLeans just decide to withdraw? What happens if the media find out? And there's always plans that kind of come into effect to sort of wrap things up per se. Because one of the things I do strongly believe is like it's not really up to us to end these shows. So I don't really want to write the last Captain Scarlet episode or find out what happens to the Alphans in Space 1999. But I want to be like, this is how it could go. So for Moonbase Alpha, the Moonbase Alpha book, we came up with Operation Exodus sort of section where it's like, well, if they find a planet, this is how they would settle it. For UFO, there is a plan at the end of it of like, well, we could send a virus back to the alien species. And also this is how we capture a UFO. So like potential ways to close out that show. And obviously we've sort of done the same with Joe 90. We've done our 2 new episodes. And then we've done this, like, this is how it could be wrapped up, but not necessarily.
Yeah. That was talking about the new mission file. So just to kind of let people know who maybe haven't seen earlier live streams that we've done, one of the kind of things that has kind of evolved from the previous 2 books is we've put more emphasis on the episodes and the mission files. So what we've done is taken a handful of episodes, various different types of Joe 90 mission, and not only summarized them, but also gone into detail about some of the vehicles involved, some of the characters involved, planning out the mission strategy behind a lot of them, that kind of thing. So that you just kind of get a feel again of like, this is roughly how Project 90 operates, so that anyone coming into it kind of gets an understanding of what it's all about. But one of the exciting things about this that Chris kind of just said, yeah, we could do this, is adding our own new mission file. So as well as existing episodes, I have come up with my own Joe 90 adventure to include in there, and Chris has come up with one as well. What was that kind of process like of kind of coming up with your own original story? Because I know for me, it was more challenging than I thought it was going to be.
Well, we backed and forth on it a little bit, or at least on my one. You actually seemed very confident with yours. I found it was the last part I wrote. I struggled with it a little bit. Usually I have a small list of, I have a pitch deck in my head of projects we can do, as like I do write graphic novels for the Anderson estate as well. So you sort of need to have stories on hand just in case they're useful. And Joe 90 ended up being quite difficult to structure for me because you've got to remember that this is a 25-minute episode. Like a lot of Joe 90 episodes are very well paced, while
Yeah.
some of them are like, let's spend 10 minutes setting up a problem and then 10 minutes like just Joe does the mission and wins Attack of the Tiger. But so my episode's called Murder on the Moon, and trying to come up with a murder, an investigation phase, an action scene, and a solution in 20 minutes, or like a plot line that could fit into 20 minutes, was tricky.
There's kind of a lot to establish with all of that. You were doing a lot of really good world building stuff in that, which actually, the episodes don't always necessarily do that much world building, but when it all comes together, it does do a good bit of world building. But yeah, you at least with yours were coming in like totally fresh. Like this is something we have not seen in the series, but you really wanted to do, and it pays off. I think it's really nice that we look into, without giving too much away, what's going on in the moon. Or what's going on the moon, I should say, not in the moon, when Joe 90's going on, so it's really.
How was the experience for you? Because again, you're in the same position now.
I just had, it was difficult to kind of come up with something that was not like what we've already seen in the show. Trying to think of, because Joe goes on all sorts of different missions, from going into space to going underwater and all the rest of it. So I was like, well, what could be done that we haven't done that feels suitably in universe?
But not hijacked to Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah, exactly. So I decided, well, I like trains, so gonna do something with a train in it. And it's sort of, again, without giving too much away, calls back to another train that is seen in the series. And so just kind of was able to, again, do some more world building and think about, okay, well, this is one example of a monotrain that we saw in the show. How might that be applied elsewhere? And just how can we tie it all together? How can we give WIN, something to do in this? And it just all came together naturally. Once you've kind of got that one piece that you're like, yes, that's definitely what I want to do, you kind of work backwards from that.
And no spoilers, but cool villain as well.
Yeah. And that really, if I had to pick like one highlight of doing this book, the villain profiles that go with each kind of mission section, was by far like the most fun and the most creative part of the whole thing for me, because you get all these villainous characters who turn up in the episodes, and it's interesting to just imagine what's going on in their heads. What's their backstory?
Terrible people.
What made Mario Coletti the child killing guy that he is. Although Joe gets the drop on him in the end, but
it actually like things like the biographies, and also I guess just from the episode as well, it does make you wish that like some of these characters would come back. Like Joe 90 really needed a recurring villain, and Mario Coletti was perfect.
Yeah.
I think out of all of them, most of the people have like a sort of a fleeting glimpse of Joe, or they interview him and they're like, oh, he's not a problem, whatever. But Mario's like, I'm going to kill this kid.
Yeah. There's a real animosity that builds up there. That is very interesting. So
episode 30, and he's just got this like, I'm going to get Joe 90.
Yeah, that would have been amazing. Yes, a rematch. Somehow Mario Coletti survived having a grenade chucked at his face. And
Luigi Coletti.
Well, I did make reference in my Coletti biography to his family and his connections and things like that. So yeah, it's certainly possible.
Off the Colettis.
Yeah. Oh no, they're a nasty bunch. But yeah, so that for me was just really good fun. Is there any particular type of thing that turns up in the book that you're like, yeah, that was really enjoyable. That was like the most fun part of the creative process for me?
Um, yes and no. I actually quite enjoyed the props in this one. They're all quite fun and simple, but also they're just nice primary colors, and it's just a very therapeutic time designing them.
Yeah.
I jetted off to Greece to write some of this, so I have very fond memories about writing about the wildcat in the shadow of the Acropolis.
Wow, you are giving all my viewers the impression of a very glamorous lifestyle right there.
Yeah, just watching the sunset by the
Yes.
ocean,
Yeah.
doing the line work for the submarine, the recovery submarine, which I
Lovely.
called the Athena, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So, it's Chris is very on brand for a holiday. Going to be doing more of that, I think.
Yeah.
But
Less of the staying up until 4 a.m., staring at why are there no fences around Benalita Base and all this kind of thing. Yeah, I was a bit mean to Chris and gave him a project that I thought would be really easy when we were doing that. We did a mission profile for Business Holiday, and I was just one of those things that you put in as a note. Oh, just do a quick layout of Benalita Base, by the way.
Chris, could you just do this entire military base?
Yeah. Turns out way more complicated than I thought.
Well, it was fun trying to work out the logistics for it, because you actually see an overview of it, like a tiny little shape of it in the episode, and in the episode, the actual plans that Shane Weston's pointing to, they really just allow for the big building in the middle and the weird crisscross thing around it. The actual base has a perimeter fence that very evidently does not cover the missiles that are sort of it's meant to be defending. So you do see the A-14 go through a wooden fence, with a nice little sheep skull outside it. So that's presumably the external fence to the base. I don't know, I feel like the World Army just left it with a huge blow me up kind of vibe.
Yeah, but that's the fun of it, It was kind of designed to be a thing that got destroyed, so they kind
of just deep down knew it's right, let's build a terrible base, and whenever they obviously try to steal it from us, we'll just be like, haha, these idiots.
Exactly. So just in terms of how has the process for you kind of evolved of working on these books from kind of where you started with them up until now? What's that whole thing been like to watch it kind of evolve and also become as incredibly popular as these books have?
Well, funny enough, it sort of evolved from nothing. I had worked on a graphic novel before, but that was really my only book experience from the creation side of it. I'd worked on the Thunderbirds and Captain Scarlet manuals from Haynes, just doing extra work for extra artwork for both Sam and Graham. But whenever there wasn't even a pitching session for the Space 1999 book. We were just trying to come up with ideas for the Big Finish special edition, and I was like, well, we could do a manual. And then I was like, wait, if we can do a manual, then why can't we just do a manual? So I pitched a 120-page book, and Jamie was like, well, I think it was Tim, actually. Tim, who runs our sort of production side of things, was like, well, look, if we're going to do this, it's got to be good. So how about 300 pages? And I was like, okay. And thus we got this bad boy, this 280 pages in the end. And at the end of the day, in terms of reference, I grew up with these things. So I've got the sort of the Micah Kuhn and Rick Sternbeck's Guide to the Enterprise, which is it's basically a textbook. And I really love this, but I sort of appreciated it's quite dry. So I wanted to do something that was like Star Trek Fact Files, or something that was on the verge of, I was kind of looking at what Star Wars was doing and what Eagle Moss was doing with other properties, and I was kind of I want to do something to that level. So I kind of made made a Google Doc and put everything I wanted in it, and our editor Steve translated that into a page plan, and then it was just a case of let's turn all these things green. But I do think it's funny
filling it in. Yeah.
I do think it's funny that like that's what Star Trek kind of had, which is I think it's like 200 pages, and then out of the bat, Space 1999.
Yeah, just whoosh, big, massive thing. I mean, yeah, I mean, that was a really good starting point, Space 1999 for sure. Like,
and like I'll tell you, I don't think I could have done it without lockdown. Like,
yeah,
because having to go UFO is only I think it's 208 pages.
Only 208 pages.
Like it's
pretty expansive still.
And like this was tricky because I had to I felt obliged to socialize and take breaks and stuff. Because we have just under a year to do these. So and Joe 90 itself, like because we're doing 2 books, it was halved. It's 128 pages. In terms of evolving the process over time, we haven't really. I kind of just sort of hit the ground. Like once the page plan's ready and like I've got a Google Doc and I can kind of just turn green. I hit the ground running and just produce stuff.
You just kind of become a machine and you're just kind of always got some new illustration to show us. It's always very, very impressive, of course.
I would say the pressure's gone down. Like we started with like the difficult one. Like if you screw up Space 1999, then
people are going to tell you about it.
Yeah, like and the entire year we were working on it, we were like in the back of my head, I had like there was going to be like Facebook threads and like there was going to be like an uproar, and people were going to like be hating me and stuff for this, and there was a little bit of that when we first announced it. Like, who are these people? Like, it sucks that there's like fans aren't going to be making this because they're not going to like try and expand the universe or anything. This is going to be like a cash grab. And then pretty much from the first sort of like live stream we did, it was fine. They were like, oh, that's it. That's actually really cool.
Well, they realize that you are a fan and you do want to expand on it and all the rest of it. There is a lot of love that goes into these. It is like if it was just a cash grab type scenario, it would be a very different product. There is so much love that goes into making these, and I can say that as someone who has now worked on one of them myself. Like all comes from a place of I, as a fan, want to do this with it, and being allowed the freedom to do that.
Like back to this book, we know from this book that there is a deck on the Enterprise that dolphins live in who do navigation. From this book, like you see Thunderbird 1's cargo bay, you see all the bits you don't see. There are fans out there that are like, no, if it's not in the show, we don't want to see it. But there's a lot of people that are like, actually, no, we want to see all that stuff.
More, please. Yeah, please try and make it make sense,
And the I was scrolling through like Google and stuff just to see, like before we did this, just to see how the books were doing, really, because I tend not to look backwards that much. But the amount of people that were using the Space 1999 book to set up their tabletop RPGs or like for writing stuff, like it's both UFO and Space 1999 have kind of become resources for the world. Like the world building and stuff, and like that's really flattering.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's great that these things can have that kind of impact. It is phenomenal. So yeah, very excited to see what kind of comes from this Joe 90 manual, because I feel like it's definitely needed a little bit of a boost to kind of get it going. And we've discovered over the course of talking about the book that there are a lot of Joe 90 fans out there and a lot of people who do remember the series very fondly. So I'm excited to see what people make of some of our observations about it and some of the little bits and pieces we've added in.
Well, there are usually like every time we do one of these things, like this happened for Space Precinct when we did the graphic novel, and this happened for New Scarlet, and I'm hoping it happens with Joe 90, is that like every time we release one of these and people get to share bits of it and show bits off, there's that little interest spike behind the scenes where companies would be like, "Oh, hello!" Like,
Yeah, maybe we could do this thing as well.
yeah,
Maybe. Yeah, exactly. No,
maybe
that's
this
great. It's
isn't
very
dead.
helpful. Yeah. So, just to kind of finish up, I just want to like talk about how enjoyable it was for like the two of us to collaborate on this project, because we've done so many little bits and pieces over the years that like some people might have seen and some people haven't. But yeah, like we first met, gosh,
TV21.
TV21 in Bristol, which was 13 years ago.
Yeah,
That's
like,
terrifying.
I remember because it was the first time I met Graham Bleethman. Was the first time. No, it wasn't the first time I met Graham Bleethman. It was, what was it? It was definitely the first time, because I remember coming up to the table and you were there. It was the
it
first
was
time I met
Sam.
Graham. Yeah.
Sam Denham introduced us.
Yes, but I remember you at the table and being like, "Hi, how's it going?"
Yeah, yeah. It's just like
Hey,
I'd obviously seen what Chris had done on YouTube and just wanted to kind of chat,
And
and
then AC came the next day, and yeah,
AC turned up the next day, and then we
we
were
just
kind of
became the squad.
we became a squad. Yeah, that was it. That's kind of just how it happened, which is what's so wonderful about the events is you and particularly as that was all our first convention that we'd gone to as far as Anderson stuff was concerned. And just realizing that there are very like-minded people out there who are also very nice, friendly, great people.
We get to be the people that we walk in and everyone's like, "Oh no, there goes the neighborhood."
Yes, we do like to cause some trouble at those
the party
events.
has started.
Sorry, everyone, that we do that.
We're
But
gonna
yeah,
like set up in the easy listening room and we're gonna have banter.
yeah, exactly. We just that's honestly like at this point, like the main appeal of like going to those events is like getting to catch up with old friends. So yeah, that's always great fun. But yeah, we discovered that we had this kind of, we were on the same creative wavelength, and so we were all kind of aspiring filmmakers at that time, and so started pitching into each other's videos, doing voiceovers and various other things. Any particular projects that you remember fondly that we've done in the past that you're like, oh yeah, that was good times?
Well, I do remember you and AC did the first draft of Zero X, because people don't know the timeline for this.
I'm struggling to remember that now.
Remember,
Enlighten me.
so Zero X, the motion comic that we did, you and AC did like a test run of it, so that I had something to animate.
Oh yes,
Because the version that you saw, it took about a year and a half to 2 years, that project, and it was really over lockdown when we finished it. And I did the first two episodes with you and AC.
Yeah,
And
we kind of
we
did
got the cast to come in to basically revoice you.
yeah.
But you were the original.
But we did get some little voice roles in there still, so
Yeah,
it's still there.
kept
But
some
yeah,
of them
I'd
in.
forgotten that. Yeah, I must have voiced like Paul Travers, and I can't remember exactly which characters I did actually in that test run. But
See, that's how it feels, Jack, asking people from like 30 years ago what did they enjoy about.
yeah, I'm like, I have no memory of doing this whatsoever. Yeah, that's exactly
We
what
turned
it's
to the
like.
recording studio, like the coffee was good.
Yeah,
Like the Big Finish lunch was great.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, no. And then you became our Agent 21.
Yes, that was great fun. Yeah,
Again,
Agent.
that was a
Those
lockdown project.
like, yeah, those comic strips are like, what do we do with those? How do we kind of bring those out into the open? Because Agent 21 was very long running and a reasonably prominent part of TV21. So it's kind of great that you had found a format that worked, and that
Well, it was literally so Zero X had sort of hit a brick wall a bit, just because lockdown had started. We were all like, well, what are we going to do? Because we didn't really have projects on the go. So I was like, right, well, we're gonna bring back Agent 21, and I've not done anything with it yet, but we're also going to bring back Dick Spanner, because there's a ton of stuff that you've never seen that is in the Anderson Entertainment archives that we've actually put together and just not really found a place for.
Yeah.
So randomly something like that might drop in the future. But it was quite fun just being like, right, here's a here's something old but new. Let's put our own spin on it.
Exactly.
Rob
Because,
Harvey,
Agent 21, if you know it, then you know it. That's great. But a lot of people don't. And also it has the benefit of, because it was never on screen, that, it borrows elements from things like Fireball and Stingray, but it's an original kind of character that we've never seen before. So at least for me, when I was performing it, I was like, okay, I've got kind of a Gerry Anderson hero character in mind when I'm doing the voice, but it's still something that we're kind of like, this we can put our own stamp on this, which people seem to enjoy. So yeah, would obviously love to do more Agent 21 if the opportunity ever came up. But yes, the fact that there are so many kind of projects on the go, like you're constantly creating new things. So just everyone just needs to stay tuned, because there's some exciting stuff coming, including another book that's coming this year that you are actively working on right now. As soon as Joe 90 was done, it was like on to the next thing. So everyone should be prepared for that.
And it's providing challenges of its own.
Yeah. It's great. I'm excited to see that one as well. I'm sorry, everyone, that you don't know what it is yet, but you will find out.
We're going to do another R talk, and we're not going to tell you what it is, but we're just going to talk around the issue.
Yes, people love.
So the thing, whenever I was modeling Thing, is that the Thing was very interesting, mainly because of the challenges presented by Thing.
You've done too many of these now. You know the exact format of how you need to talk. Yeah. But anyway, the Joe 90 Technical Operations Manual, as said at the top of the video, it is available from the Gerry Anderson store to pre-order now. So head to andr.sn/Project 90, and you can get your pre-orders in. We're expecting it should release sometime around July, I believe, is the current estimate. We're kind of in the final production phases of it right now, so that's kind of where the project is at. And
I also just want to say a big thank you to everyone that bought the special edition, which sold out fast.
The special edition, literally, because I'm in the US, the special edition sold out before I woke up that day. So that was like, oh, well, okay. That was a very, very popular edition. And yeah, and quite right too. The standard edition is going to be just as beautiful, really. These books are impressive to just have on your shelves, just by themselves. They are just good looking pieces of merchandise. And then when you actually get into them and start reading and start exploring, you can get lost in how much detail there is in them. So
and the good conversation starters, you bring a date back and they're like, what's that? And you can be like, well, it's just Moonbase Alpha.
Oh, dearie me. Yeah, well, I wouldn't know anything about that. But but yeah,
so Chris, what do you do for a living? Well,
yeah, let me explain what a technical operations manual is.
Let me tell you about Joe 90.
Yeah. Super into it. You need to understand how important this is and how much it has taken over my life for the past few months. That must be a relief, like when you finished with it, to sort of be like, okay, I don't have to watch Joe 90 for a little bit now. I get to move on to something else.
Yeah, there's that feeling at the end of all of these where it's like, right, I don't need to watch Space 1999 for a bit.
Yeah.
And then Big Finish rings me up and I'm like, hey, Chris, can we have a trailer? And I'm like,
okay, a little bit more.
But we've got all the models now, so it's all good.
Yes.
Or UFO, or no, Joe 90 can rest for a little bit in my mind.
Yeah, and straight on to the next one, of course. Yeah. So if anyone wants to keep up with your work and what you're up to, where can they find you?
Well, I tend to post bits and pieces up on my Instagram, ChrisXL5. And Twitter, Invincible Chris. Just type in Chris Thompson. I'll be one of the many that turns up.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are the two main pieces. I used to have a YouTube. I don't do a lot with it anymore. Would like to, but we'll
Yeah,
see.
that would be
So
amazing. I mean, that's honestly like that's kind of where you I feel like at least that's kind of where you made your where you really made a name for yourself was with those YouTube skits from back in the
Thunderbird
day and
2010.
The Thunderbirds 2010 fan film, of course.
Mm,
What a beautiful thing that was.
we've all
That's
got to start somewhere.
yeah, that I mean it's still great though. It's
I
like
can't watch it. I
I
think
mean I know that feeling, but for
it's the feeling of why did I put myself in this? Because as a director now, like most of the days I work with animation now, I do stuff for opera videos and things like that. Like I've directed a lot of music videos lately, but um, having shots of yourself never goes well because like you're out of focus, like you don't look great. Like if you hand somebody, you know this, you've shot films
oh
and
yeah.
it's like the stuff of you is never going to be nearly as good as that.
Yeah.
And the difference between you and me is that I'm not an actor.
Oh, I'm barely an actor, but it's nice of you to say so.
But
But
like
yeah,
Jack can act. This is the thing. Like you do have dramatic background. You do have like you've done stage stuff before. You've done
yeah,
a lot of video skits and things.
yeah.
Whereas uh, no, I have a very limited emotional range. I have this voice and nothing else. Um, I'm
All
trying my best,
right. Well, we
but
won't ask you to put on Joe 90 the musical or anything like that for us then. Never mind. But
that
yeah,
would
well,
rock.
if you nevertheless, you should all go and check out Chris's work on his various social media platforms because yeah, there's some fantastic stuff out there. And I think that about wraps it up. So thanks everyone for watching. Thank you again, Chris, for joining us. And
Thank you, Jack, for having me.
well, you're very welcome. And
And
yeah, stay tuned to the Security Hazard blog for all sorts of new updates and things like that. Maybe more videos like this one. We shall see. Thank you very much for watching, and bye bye.